No, I think we'll do it here.
Okay, I pressed recording. Let's spotlight.
Spotlight.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to our journeys around the world. We have some very special guests this week. We're not going to introduce them yet. Before we introduce them, we're going to show a short video of them just to show what it's like in Italy.
So, thank you, Dina. It's great to see you again. Those on Zoom, those on Facebook, great to see you here again. And for our next leg of our journey, tonight is a very, very special night. And we'll talk more in a moment. We are visiting into Venice, Italy. And Venice is a very unique place because it's one of the places that is very visited by people from around the world, including Jews.
Where's the link?
Jews from around the world are coming by to visit Venice. And everyone knows about the Jewish ghetto. But we are going to meet tonight a couple, Rabbi Rami and Shachar Banin, who have transformed the Venice experience to an entirely new level. And before we get started, we wanted to just show two very quick minute videos to remind the people who have been to Venice what Venice looks like, but as well, just to get a little sense of Jewish Venice. And then we will get a chance to meet our couple.
And this one, right?
No.
No.
Oh, you have to press. Oh, you have to open it.
This one. Oh, open it.
Sound.
When you first arrive in Venice, unless you're taking a private boat directly to your destination, you'll see the Grand Canal, the main waterway of Venice. These beautiful gondolas are not the main mode of transportation. In Venice, one gets around by foot or by their own personal boat. The Jewish ghetto of Venice existed from the 1500s until the 1800s.
Yeah, now we have the other video.
So stop share.
Stop share. Okay, now we have another very short video as well.
As is known in communities all around the world, there's a beautiful custom that the Baal Shem Tov initiated of saying extra.
Stop that. Go here. It's this one, not this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that one.
Here.
No.
So we are now going. That was a very quick reminder of Venice. We can't travel. The reminder of the beautiful Venice. But now we're going to watch just very quickly a quick 2-minute video of Jewish Venice. and then we'll meet the people behind it.
You clicked the wrong thing.
You're supposed to click Google Chrome.
You're supposed to click the Google Chrome. Screen share, that one. Thanks.
Gum Gum has been open for almost 20 years now. We saw that there's a need here for more hospitality, more kosher food.
Anyone who comes by, offer them something maybe to drink, just smile and be there for them and wish them a good Shabbos. This evening we will have a large Shabbat meal where everyone's more than welcome to join.
Gum Gum sort of changed a lot of things in the ghetto. It brought a certain kind of life to the ghetto. It brought non-Jewish people to come and have an experience of Jewish food, of Jewish tour. It brought Jewish people themselves, like people who are looking for kosher food to stay longer and to revive the ghetto in a certain way.
Everything here is excellent, best falafel you'll ever have in your entire life.
They had two restaurants. Gum Gum is the meat restaurant and Gum Gum Goodies is the milk restaurant.
We just came off the train from Florence and we were starving, so we were walking through the ghetto and found Gum Gum Goodies. Very easy to go grab a quick bite. We got some pizza and sandwiches made for us on the spot and it was very easy.
Venice is a beautiful place. No cars here, only water, boats, a bunch of bridges. It's beautiful. And the Jewish ghetto, wow, it's amazing.
There's a pasuk in Tehillim that says, "Gam kelech v'getz mavet." Even if you'll be in wilderness, I'll be in hardships. Things, God is with us, and therefore things can be turned over. So Gam Gam is a welcoming place in that sense, and it's actually in the entrance of the ghetto. That place that used to be actually a checkpoint, not to let people out, is now a welcoming place into the ghetto.
Just amazing. We're waiting here to see you next time in Chabad of Venice.
Now, let's add them as.
Okay.
The entire time I was in Venice, it's like,
One
you
second,
know,
one moment.
people everywhere, tourists everywhere. It's crazy. I'm in the Jewish ghetto right now, and I don't get it. And this is the first time I felt like I'm in a city where people actually live. The entire time.
Okay, so just a little taste. Venice, Jewish Venice. And we are very, very fortunate and lucky to be able to have with us, especially that now in Venice, I think it's 1:30 a.m.
Yes, it is.
Tikkun Chatzos, we're doing all the hours. So regularly, the Banins would be up at this time serving the thousands of people who are passing by all the time, not just Shabbos and not just at the one time during the year, but it's throughout the year. There are visitors coming, and Dina and I spent a few days in Venice and a Shabbos in Venice, a very memorable Shabbos. It was probably one of the most beautiful Shabboses we spent. And it was fascinating to see. It was fascinating to see how so many people who were there were coming there or coming back because they wanted to experience not just Venice, but experience the Banin Chabad Venice experience. So it's a great honor and a pleasure to welcome tonight, early this morning for you, our very special couple, totally dedicated to your mission and making Jewish life in Venice stronger and a real beacon, Rabbi Rami and Shachar Banin. I don't know, before you start, if Dina, you wanted to say a few words.
So hello, everyone. So when we started this whole journey thing, I kept on saying, we have to get Chabad Venice. We have to get Chabad in Venice because I have to say, we run our Chabad house and, people I think seem to like us sometimes, but, and we've toured many Chabad houses around the world. And I do have to say, from all the Chabad houses around the world that I've been to, honestly, I was not only impressed, but I was touched most by Chabad of Venice because we were there in the summer, and the Shabbat that we were there were like 400 or 500 people there. And it was the most emotional Shabbat of my life because we were all in the ghetto. We were all in the middle of the ghetto, standing outside. There was no room in the synagogue. So they did the prayers outside and they did the Havdalah outside. And we really felt like we were by the Kotel. And I kept on saying that, and it stays in my mind that Venice is, to me, almost like the Kotel, because we're all standing there and hundreds of Jews from all over the world. You don't know this one's from Italy, this one's from Australia, from Israel, New York, everywhere. We're all standing there together and we're united. And the Havdalah afterwards, the musical Havdalah was beautiful. So I'm really happy, and I became really good friends with Shachar. And we've kept up ever since. And we see each other usually every year when we go to New York for the Kinus, but unfortunately, we weren't able to this year, but we still saw each other on different Zooms and, we're in touch. So I really want to introduce Rabbi Rami and Shachar as our guests tonight.
So maybe, and you both take it the way how you want to, who wants to open up, maybe tell us a little how you ended up in Venice and what was Venice as a Jewish place. We know Venice has a history hundreds of years old. What was Venice as a Jewish place when you got there, before you started to do your work and to spread your wings?
First, I would just like to say thank you for such a beautiful welcome. It's really such a pleasure to be with you and meet your beautiful community here. So thank you very much. Rami, why don't you go ahead and give a little background?
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome, everybody, and nice to meet everybody. Of course, welcome. Dini was saying very nicely, we're standing there together. So Venice, the ghetto is a place where people actually get together. The ghetto, as you know, has a long history. It's the oldest, the first ghetto in the world, the first place. The word ghetto comes from Venice. Venice is the place where the ghetto was established by the Inquisition then, but the place was called ghetto even before. It's a Venetian word for foundries. So it has this strong history and strong feeling when you walk in there, and it has also a structure, which it's a closed place by itself. There's buildings that surround the ghetto. There's canals that surround the ghetto. So being a place which is enclosed, and back then was enclosed for negative purposes, was restraining and containing the Jews inside the ghetto. Now the same structure became a welcoming place, and a place where, as Dini was saying, we're standing together, we spend time together, we meet people, we meet new people together. So I really didn't come here. I was born here. I grew up in Italy, and so when it was time to open Chabad house, I went to New York, where I met my wife Shachar. But for me, it was a natural place to work, to open Chabad house, and to stay. So Shachar is really the one who came to Venice, and I'm sure she'll tell you her feeling, her story about what's coming to Venice. It's from the States, but this is how we feel about the ghetto. The ghetto is a place where we welcome, we meet everybody, and people come, and the history just connects us all. Jewish people, non-Jewish people come to the ghetto. Everybody's moved by the history of the ghetto, but also by the place itself. The place has become a welcoming place for people and a meeting place for people. so people who have been there, who experienced that, can see how in within Venice, which is a welcoming place to the city by itself, it's it's beside the beauty of Venice, but it's very unique with the canals, with the water, the way it was built. It's an island, and so besides that, the ghetto in within Venice has that particularity, and it's not only Jewish people. Everybody who comes to the ghetto understands and sees how the history affects him, and how the history talks to everybody. So for me, it's a natural place. I grew up in Italy. It was a place where I wanted to work, and I wanted to continue the outreach work that Chabad is doing in Italy, and I think the ghetto became an inspiration for many people. When we first started the Chabad House Venice, the local community was very small. There's very old shuls in Venice, very beautiful, but they almost weren't used. And out of them, only one was used because the community had become smaller with the years. And so our mission was, we decided to actually revive the ghetto and bring back Jewish people. We do that, through outreaching, through welcoming people, through hosting people. We opened a kosher restaurant. We opened Shabbat dinners and Shabbat events that welcome people, but also on a daily basis, people that come are welcome and introduced to the ghetto. We, explaining the history, talking to people, meeting people. So the ghetto was revived by the tourists who visit Venice, and also through that, the local community. We open a yeshiva, a minyan every day. People can come and daven every day. People can find, not only kosher food, but also like a welcoming place, or anything what's needed from a Jewish point of view. And this way, the ghetto has become more known, more revived. And Venice is a touristic place, a place where tourists mostly nowadays it's inhabited by tourists. This year we felt that very much, since people weren't traveling. So you see that the city is totally emptied out. It's deserted. There's nobody in the city. But usually Venice is a place where mostly tourists come, like number-wise. The majority of people who are in town are tourists, and this is how our Chabad house has been working, through welcoming tourists and bringing back Jewish life. So it's Shabbat, as Dini was saying, a lot of people on Shabbat gathering together, but it's also lessons, minyanim, people who want to daven together, or any other Jewish need. So for me, it's a natural. I'm Italian. It was a very natural place where I grew up, and I felt like I can work. And for Shachar, I'm sure it was a little bit of a different experience moving into Venice, but of course she liked it very much, and together we actually built a Chabad house which welcomes a lot of people during the year.
So Shachar, let's hear your take on it.
Well, as my husband said, I'm the one who came over to Venice. I'm from America. I was born in New York, and I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And the reality is that the main thing is going on shlichus for the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So it didn't really matter which city it was, but being that we were sent to Venice, each shaliach is sent to the city where his or her individual skills can be used. And a lot of people, during the summer, let's say, when it's the busiest, we'll see literally thousands of people each week. And people often say, how can you be surrounded by so many people, but basically be completely on your own? Because there are very few, there are a few hundred Jews within the actual Jewish community. And but they live all over, including the mainland of Venice. So we do see them from time to time, mostly just during the holidays. But this kind of fast-paced life where you're meeting new people all the time, in a sense, you always have people say, how can you be on all the time, with a smile and just be there? So whereas one person might find that difficult, for me, it's just natural. So there wasn't so much of a transition, particularly going to Venice, but it's a very special opportunity because somebody that you meet, you might have a chance, you may only have 5 minutes to speak with them. And, the Baal Shem Tov teaches that everything that we see or hear it's going to have an effect on our lives, and we can have an effect on that in that situation. And when you stop and think for a minute that you're going to have an encounter with someone that you don't know, and if we're lucky, maybe they'll stay for the whole Shabbat, or maybe they'll stay for one whole Shabbat meal. But as I said, it could be that you're just going to be in passing, meet them for just a few minutes while they ask you for directions, or just ask a historical question. And it's a very special experience, and it really makes you stop and think about how you act, how you speak. I know everybody in this Zoom is a kind person, and we're all extremely patient, but it really makes you stop and think about what you can give over to somebody in those few minutes. And of course, I don't stop and think about that when I speak to each person. I'm being my natural self, but it's a very unique situation. It's not a situation where perhaps I'll have a class, maybe a Rosh Chodesh class, and if somebody doesn't come to the class, maybe they'll come next month or the following month after that. It's really a seize the moment, and not just that we're giving. I think part of what's so special is that we are really receiving from each and every visitor as well. So it's a very special experience to do this kind of work.
We actually witnessed how we were there for a Shabbos. And, I was telling, when I went with Dina, I said, we're in Montreal, we're busy all the time. We'll come to Venice, we'll be incognito, we won't, but we're so inspired watching how hundreds of people, Friday night, the restaurant was full.
The gallery.
The gallery was full. The gallery
outside
was full. Like wherever you can put a person, and both of you were talking to everyone. Actually, it was hard to find you because you were making everyone feel special and comfortable, and you yourselves that you didn't even have a seat. So it was very inspiring to see.
I remember we sat down at the end of the meal Friday night. Once everyone left, you guys came in. We were in the restaurant. You guys came in to sit down to have your meal. We were sitting together, and then you brought out some really good brownie that you made. We were just a few of us sitting there, intimately with you guys. It was really, really special.
So I wanted to ask you.
I think this is the most famous chocolate cake on the planet. Certainly, it's been the individual chocolate cake that's eaten by the most Jews on the 6 continents.
So though it's a very small community in terms of people that live there, and maybe it's dwindling a little, but on the other hand, the amount of people who come through, they're Jews. I don't even know if you have a number, not now in COVID time, but in regular times, like how many Jews come through Venice a year. It's definitely one of the most visited places by so many Jews in one little area. And everybody comes through the ghetto, whether they know about you yet or not, or the restaurant that's right at the entrance to the ghetto, Gam Gam, a great restaurant, a great food. But I am sure, I maybe want to share, both of you, whoever the story, maybe, even though some people you see once and you never see them again, but I'm sure you may have a recollection or a story or two where you actually saw how one meeting or your meeting and then coming to Venice and maybe falling into the Jewish ghetto into conversation with you or the experience where it was a springboard for people finding their Judaism and waking up like a awakening. So I don't know if you want to share maybe if anything comes to mind. something that may be unique to Venice that won't happen in many other places?
Well, actually, I don't know if you would have time for it. There's a video that, I mean, we could talk a little bit, but there is a video. I will try to find the link, and I'll message
Post
it
it
to
on
you.
the chat. You could post the video on the chat so people can watch it after.
That's a very good idea. That's a great idea. But let's see, some unique stories. We had one very recently. Somebody came, a young lady, a 20-year-old young lady from Israel. She came and she said, "Hi, I want to introduce myself. You are, maybe I should call you aunt and uncle." And we thought, what? What is this? And she said, long story short, she said, "My mother and father were traveling individually about 21 years ago, and they came to Venice. My mother was with her friends, my father was with his friends. They did not know each other, and they were both in your sukkah. So you can imagine Gam Gam Kosher Restaurant, which is as the rabbi said, at the main entrance of the ghetto, and outside along the water. Just picture it, a large sukkah that could fit about 80 people. And as the boats go by, because the sukkah has to be suspended a little bit, so it's tied to the poles that are in the water. So when boats go by, the sukkah sways just a little bit. And sometimes when there's the high water, as one of the guests mentioned, we have to put wood planks, and we call it surfing in the sukkah, because sometimes the water comes over. But this young lady was explaining that her parents separately had joined us for Sukkot, and they were in the sukkah, and they met, and they kept in touch. And when they got back to Israel, they dated, and they eventually got married. And this young lady that was standing in front of us was the daughter of a young man and woman who met in the sukkah.
Wow.
So
that is a story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
That is definitely incredible. So how did you figure out or set yourself up to become very tourist oriented in a way that everybody is always welcome? I remember it was August, so it's one of the busier weeks, I'm sure, but tables were being added, and yet there was enough food for everyone who was there to partake. Give us an idea. How do you set yourself up to become a place that everybody wants? There are a lot of Chabad houses and places that are tourist areas, but Venice has a unique place that everybody, I met people from all different walks of life, people who wouldn't necessarily go to a synagogue or somewhere, but in Venice, they had the experience. They came to a meal, they came to something that happened, they had that Jewish experience. Maybe you want to share with us.
Rabbi Rami, you want to go ahead, maybe?
Yeah. I don't know if it's not something that you really set up or plan ahead. We, I think a lot of Chabad Shluchim, or maybe all Chabad Shluchim, we were told by the Rebbe, we were, the idea of going on Shluchim in the first place is to welcome people and to introduce people to their heritage, to Judaism, and in Venice, once we came, of course, being that one of the main resources is tourists, people visiting. We just started dealing with that, working with that, and it started small. We started in our own, and this Chabad was very small with a few people coming. People didn't know, about the ghetto. Didn't know to visit the ghetto. Definitely didn't know that there's, kosher food available, or there. So it was a few people every Shabbat, and then once it became more known, more people came. We adapted to that. We grew it as much as we could in Venice. Spaces in Venice are not very big. It's not a city where you can just rent a big hall or a big place. So we had to work with, sometimes in summer when it's busier, tables outside, as you were saying,
adding table, because sometimes we don't know who's coming. An Israeli group, a tourist group of 50 people could just walk by, and we won't just let them go. We'll, introduce them, make kiddush, stay with us a little bit. So with the years, things just went from one thing to another. Especially Shabbat. The Shabbat program is one that you had to adapt, because you really don't know who's coming. During the week, people are coming all the time. We have yeshiva, we have young boys learning by us, and they are in charge of welcoming people during the week, put on film, talk to them, invite them in. Sometimes if possible, if they can stay longer, learn with them a little bit. But at Shabbat, since everybody's coming together and it's a meal, so we learn to get organized and organize this spontaneous meal, sometimes for more people, sometimes in the winter. It's still a big crowd, even though it's not us in the summer. Like when you were there, we're 500-600 people. And in the summer, in the winter, we might have 100 people, 200 people for Shabbat. And we still, have to adapt to that. So in the years, it became a place known to spend Shabbat. People travel, they know they can count on us and come for Shabbat. And that way we were able to open a restaurant and to organize the touristic part of the services that we give to Jewish people who come. It sort of grew during the years like that.
Yeah, it is very.
So I was saying before, like the ghetto, being that the ghetto used to be closed. I mean, was built to be a closed place. It sort of helped us like encounter people, meet them, be together, because it's a compound. It's like almost, it's big, but it's almost like our garden where people come in.
Like your backyard.
Our backyard, yeah.
It's interesting what you said before, the ghetto. I mean, Venice has hundreds of year old history. Italy has thousands of year old history, Jewish history. Venice, the ghetto, hundreds of years old. But yet you're like matching the past and the present, and you're very much bringing all the history that's there, but you bring it alive by Jews connecting to it, which is very special. But tell us a little bit about when you said there's a small community, like the community that was there, that's still there.
Like how many people?
Is this a community that's been there just since after the war, or this is a community that's been there for continuous?
Yeah, no, the community, the Jewish people who live in Venice, and maybe not only Jewish people, Venetians who live in Venice have been here for many years. The Jewish community is built from many communities who came to Venice. When Venice opened itself in the form of a ghetto, but when Venice welcomed Jews in the 15th century, we're talking about times of Inquisition, where it was very hard to find a safe place where to live in Europe. So different communities came from Venice, from Europe to Venice, from different places in Europe to Venice. There was an Ashkenazi community from France. There was a German community who established itself in the ghetto. The Italian Jews who were scattered around the north of Italy moved into the ghetto. Eventually, after the expulsion of Spain, Jews who were traveling, who were fleeing from Spain to different places, especially to Turkey and to Amsterdam, also came into Venice. And Venice was, because of the structure of the city, because of the commerce, Venice was the most important port in Europe then. There was a lot of commerce, and the city itself, the government of Venice wanted the Jewish people to be there. On the other hand, because of the Inquisition, they had to close them in the ghetto, and there were all the oppressions. But just different communities moved into the ghetto. We're talking in the ghetto was established in 1516. So we talk about more than 500 years ago. And in 10, 20 years, about a few thousand people were already living in the ghetto, 10 or 15 years after the establishment of the ghetto. So all these people gathered together there and with different communities. And that's how the Venetian community became a place of different minhagim, different customs, different Jewish communities gathering and being in the ghetto. There are still, people can trace their origins to Ashkenazi Jews who came into the ghetto, Sephardic Jews who came to the ghetto, Spain or Turkey. The shuls, there are 5 shuls. One is, was built by the German community, by the Ashkenazi community. The others were built by the Italian or by the Spanish people, or by people who came from Turkey. Every shul had its own community and its own history. And so the local community is built from all those different things. It became one community eventually, and it's smaller now. It's we're talking about 400 people who are actually enrolled in the community nowadays, local from local Jewish people who live in Venice. But this is the background, and they do remember. They know, the families. They know the history, and it's important to them. It's important to the Jewish community, to the local Jewish community, the place where they came from. Even though now it's one caste and one shul for everybody, but you feel the history here. Like people live with the history, and it's not a recent history. We're talking about a few hundred years of background of family being here continuously.
Was there? I know in Italy, generally the Italians, there's been a lot of intermarriage, assimilation. Is the Jewish community in Venice, those who remained, have also been hit by assimilation, intermarriage, or
Yeah, it's in Italy, maybe even more than other places. It was one of the major challenges of the Jewish communities. In a way, I would say Italians were more tolerant than other countries. So there was some, there was more integration, was more communal life between Jewish people and non-Jewish people. Maybe that, maybe the culture of Italy, but assimilation in Italy is a little bit earlier than the rest of Europe. We're talking, 17th century, even a little bit 16th century. There's already things that in the rest of Europe, the Jewish community was very separated and very distanced from the non-Jewish community. In Italy, there were already talking about even mixed marriages back then, and then eventually with the years it was felt. Venice, it's a small community, so you feel it more. Every person who lives the community, or if doesn't continue, or marries in a non-Jewish family, there's no continuation, so you feel it more. The rest of Italy, there's bigger communities in Rome and in Milan, where also people came, like Persian Jews or Ashkenazi Jews during the war, came to Milan or to Rome. Those communities grew. But Venice and other small Italian cities, they were just dealing with their own local people, and they dwindled during the years. All the communities became smaller. But Italian Jewry was never very, very big. It was very important in history. A lot of rabbis lived, very important rabbis lived in Italy, especially in Venice. In Venice, Venice was very active with printing, with the printing of the books. At the very beginning of the printing, of the history of printing, Venice was one of the places that the best printing was there. So a lot of Jewish people a lot of rabbis moved into Venice because they were able to print. They had work from that. We're talking about times where you had to know what to print. Letters were put one by one. So like nowadays that you just you can just type it or print it out. The letters were literally attached one by one to be able to print. So they needed learned people who knew about the Jewish books and the Jewish custom, the Jewish market, the Jewish communities were the biggest buyers of books. So Venice became a very big industry in printing Jewish books. Thousands of Jewish titles were first printed in Venice. The Gemara and the Mikras Gdelis, the Chumash with the Rashi, with the commentaries, the way we know them now, that the commentary is embodied in the same page with the text. It's an invention of the Jewish printing in Venice. It started in Venice. Surah Sadaf, what we call the image of the page that we see now, with the Gemara in the middle and the commentaries on the sides. This is something that started in Venice. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of work around that. So a lot of rabbis moved to Venice. We're talking Venice in the 16th century. There were maybe 100 yeshivot, 100 Batei Midrash, places of learning where rabbis came to learn, and also they had worked with the printing, but they printed their own books sometimes. It was a busy, even though the ghetto was small physically, it was a busy community. There were in the ghetto, which is a small place, there were over 5,000 people living there. So the history was very rich, very important.
5,000 people just in the ghetto.
Over 5,000 known. Yeah, was never documented exactly who were coming and going. But Venice was an important city. Was a lot of commerce. Was a lot of traveling to Venice and out because of the commerce and the port of Venice, but Jewish-wise also. So the definitely from calculations of historians, there were over 5,000 people living in the ghetto, and they were only allowed to live in the ghetto. They couldn't live outside the ghetto. There were over 5,000 people at a certain point. That's why also the buildings in Venice, in the ghetto in Venice, are taller than the rest of the city. They had to build on top. Venice, tallest building in Venice usually is 3 floors, 2 or 3 floors. And in the ghetto, we have buildings with 7 or 8 floors. And it's a very different place within the city.
So is there an old cemetery, Jewish cemetery, where there's still grave sites from hundreds of years ago, or how does it work there from a lot of the people?
There is a cemetery in Venice. It's not in the city itself. It's in Lido, which is an island. It's part of the city, but it's a separate island within the city. The Jewish community. There's a cemetery it's over 1,000 years old. It served the community even before the ghetto was established, and then eventually it continued. It's still used until now. It's the cemetery of the Jewish community. It's a very interesting cemetery, historically also, and also the way it's built. It's on an island. Unfortunately, that cemetery, being on an island, was sometimes washed out by floods, and so there's the older part is a little bit destroyed, and not everything is kept the way it was. Not things were damaged. Old tombs and because of the flooding, more important people were either moved or even buried in Padova, which is the next city. It's 20 minutes from Venice. So the Barbanel and the Maram Padova, the Padova is the city of the Ramchal. Very important rabbis were buried there. Mm-hmm. So Padova and Venice were like twin Jewish communities. But yeah, the cemetery is it's a very interesting and important one.
So what happened during the war? Were any Jews in Venice during the war? Did they have to run away and leave? Were they taken away during the Second World War, during the Holocaust? What?
Yeah, I mean, the community always stayed in Venice. Fortunately, people were taken away also. As you know, Italian Nazi and World War II history is very particular, is very different. The Italians allied to the Germans. Mussolini, the fascist party, allied to the Germans. On one hand, it was very harsh on the Jews. They had the racial laws. They couldn't go to school anymore. And on the other hand, though, the Germans, because of the alliance, they never came into Italy until the very end of the war. So the Italians were not always carrying out the deportations as strongly as it happened where Germans actually occupied, like in France, Germany, and Poland. So a lot of people sort of managed to hide during the war, to go into the countryside. Some to Swiss people, and even the locals sometimes were hiding people. Those who stayed in town. Venetian, I still meet people who remember that the parents were hiding a Jewish family. As I was saying before, the Italian community, the Italian non-Jewish community and the Italian Jewish community were very close, and people, were friendly to each other, especially in Venice. Venice is an island. It's very social. People knew each other very well. So the Italians are, thanks God, didn't turn in people very easily. When the Germans did come, they deported over 800 people at once. They found them because they were there, they were in the ghetto. But was the end of the war. A lot of them, thanks God, managed to come back. About close to 300 people were, perished in Auschwitz from that particular deportation. But some, the rest came back. It was the end of the war, and they were liberated. And during the whole time of the war, Venice, even though the community was there, they had to hide. They had to, they couldn't go to school, things like that. But they sort of survived. They maintained the structure of the community was sort of it remained there. There's a very interesting story. When the Germans came, they wanted the list, wanted the people, and the locals didn't turn them in easily. Maybe even not at all. The president of the community, he committed suicide not to give the list. He was asked for the list. He disappeared, and he's now the hospital of Venice is named after him because of that. The rabbi was taken. The rabbi was found. Rabbi Ottolenghi was found in the ghetto. He was taken with this 800 people.
Wow. Did they destroy any of the any part of the ghetto, the shul?
No, the Germans were able to take the shuls over. But we were talking about end of 41, almost when they actually took the shuls over. A few months, less than a year later, the partisans took it back. Everything was, the Sefer Torah and the silverware of the shuls were all either they were hidden or what was found was still there. Most of there was no destroy that they didn't destroy. Most of Venice, didn't come in with tanks. Like in Florence, for example, the shul, which is a big shul, what became the garage of the German tanks during the war, and was destroyed. There was a lot of destruction there. But in Venice, being a city that only foot soldiers came in, there's no cars here, there's no streets, so it was a little bit different. The Venetians were able to guard it a little bit better.
Unbelievable. Shachar, maybe you want to share with us, what is it to bring up children in a place like Venice? In terms of just bringing up children in a place like Venice, education, Jewish education.
It's a very good question. It's a question that we're often asked. And, kids are really resilient. And being that our children were all born in Italy, life in Venice, life as young shluchim is all that they know. Up until a certain age when we would go and visit grandparents and other family in America. And normally when parents say, be careful in the street, be careful of the cars, kids who grow up in Venice, this takes on a completely different meaning. And it could be that they're even more careful than kids who are used to seeing cars in the streets. Most everyone knows there are no cars in Venice at all. So the whole lifestyle is very different. And certainly education is different as well. In Italy, they teach religion in school. I know that's a lot different than many other places in the world, certainly in North America. And the religion that they're teaching is definitely not Judaism. But what we did was when our first child turned 3 years old, which is the initial stage, the age of when Jewish education formally begins, we started a small school, and there were about 3 families involved, and I just treated it as if there were 300. And we, with blessings from the Rebbe, we expanded over the years to about 10 children. It was really wonderful. And eventually those families, I guess we did such a good job, those families all made Aliyah. And then the Chabad online school began. So then our kids went to the online school. And, every mother tosses and turns, no matter how old her kids are, tosses and turns. Am I doing my best? Did I do my best? How about this? Oh, I remember when he was 4 years old, even though he's nearly 20, it doesn't make a difference. You know, we always have concerns about everything from A to Z. And my kids have often said that school back then, even though there were only a few kids, even though it's definitely a different type of situation, they said it was the best, and they wish they could go back to school back then. So so even though it was very different, like I said, kids are resilient and they adapt. And now, you know, maybe that sounds like a bouquet of roses. Certainly it was challenging for them not to have a regular number of friends, and some grades even being the only one in the class. So we would combine different grades, etc. So it wasn't always perfect, but you know, no matter what situation there is in life, and certainly all of us have learned that even more this past year, things don't always go as planned, and not everything is ideal, but we have to do the best that we can. Now the kids are all learning in Israel, and you know, it's not easy. It's not easy, and it doesn't matter how many. You know, there are about 5,000 Chabad houses in the world. It doesn't matter if how many thousands of Chabad houses, how many thousands of families. You know, there are families outside of Chabad who send their kids away to school. It doesn't matter how many people do it. It doesn't make it any easier. You know, parents want to tuck their kids in. They want to cook for them. They want to see them physically to make sure, you know, a parent can look at their child and understand what's going on with them before they even say a word. So my heart goes out and my hat is off to every parent who has to do something similar. But overall, you know, we got the shluchim got a blessing from the Lubavitcher Rebbe that said, I take the responsibility on my shoulders. So so we just push forward.
Wow. Unbelievable. By the way, we have someone who's on here, someone who's involved with us, who spent a year studying in the university in Venice before he was in touch with his Judaism, really. So he never met you yet. But he was telling me it's a big university. It's an important university. It wasn't like a small little school. It was you know, a substantial university there. Yes. Do any Jewish students come there? Curious. Any?
Yeah, absolutely. Venice has one of the most well-known architectural schools in the world. I don't know what this person studied, but
economics, business economics.
And there's business school. There's everything that you can imagine in any standard university, and we do get a lot of Jewish students, and it's very special because, you know, when people are away from home, when they're in let's say somebody that's from Toronto and they go to Quebec for university, or if somebody's lives in California, but they go all the way to New York for university. When you go out of the country, when you go out of the continent, and you feel like maybe you're Kafoskeri, when you feel very, you know, away from your family, it's the best feeling for us. You know, when a student walks in to the Chabad house and you could just see their shoulders relax, and you can just see that they feel like they're at home. Maybe it's great. It's wonderful for them, but it's really wonderful for us. Wow. It's so special to be able to provide that for someone. And whether it's that we can invite them for Shabbat, or if it's a holiday, or even just to invite them in for some coffee and cake and some conversation from a Yiddish mama. It's really fantastic to be able to provide that for people.
So much of what you did, or a big part, is all the tourists. Italy has had a hard time through COVID. It's been locked down. There's not much movement. what's life been? I'm sure you're waiting, ready to welcome everyone back, and hopefully it'll happen soon. The world will come back to normal. But what's life been in the last year or so for you and in Venice? What's life been?
You know, it's a whirlwind. First, I just want to say that I wish everybody well. Anyone who is still in a process of recovery, whether it's physical recovery, emotional recovery, anyone who suffered in any capacity. I know my husband shares my thoughts. Our hearts go out to you. I always say something special in my tefillah every single day. You know, it's very strange to go from having, in the summer we could have 600, 700, 800 guests for Shabbat. Even on a small Shabbat, we'll have 250, 300 people. And it's very odd to go from having hundreds of guests, from having thousands of people come to through your Chabad house or through Gam Gam, the kosher restaurant, each week, and then to go to 0. And sometimes my husband and I, we look at each other at the Shabbat meal, we don't know what to do with ourselves. We're not accustomed, as Rabbi and Rabbi Krasinski mentioned, we're not accustomed to even sitting until the very end. It's very different. A positive is that now on Shabbat afternoon, my husband and I, we go for a walk together. But as far as Venice is concerned, it's been completely devastating. Devastating is a light word. The city has been closed down. Once in a while, we'll hear a foreign language of a tourist. Maybe it's actually not really a tourist. Maybe it's somebody who is there for work. It's a completely different place. The streets are not busy. The streets are empty. Many stores, many restaurants are boarded up. Some people have taken long vacations. Some people, most have permanently closed. And I don't know how the city will bounce back. Venice, or Italy in general, had a very hard time economically over the last, well, many decades. But now it's almost, I would say, almost frightening. But one thing that I spoke to Rebbe Sindina about this a couple of weeks ago on the phone. Because of having faith in Hashem, even though we can't understand a particular situation, we know that ultimately everything is for the good. And just having that faith alone is what has helped me put one foot in front of the other, to keep that smile on my face. Because without that, I don't know how people can really get through, even the ordinary difficulties in life. But this is something that's so overwhelming because it's not only affecting our work. The restaurant is closed. Various points during the year, it was open. They would let the restaurant be open only for lunch. And you could only fill to half capacity, but it was a rarity. We were allowed to do takeaway, but the mean age in Venice is like 85. So there's not many people really doing takeaway there. We want to see you. We want to be able to welcome everyone. It's not just about that our job, the restaurant was affected, our livelihood is affected. It's our spiritual livelihood, our entire job, our jobs, so to speak, but literally our entire lives as shluchim has been completely affected. So interestingly, because the majority of the people that we're in touch with, of course, helping people in the local community, but since the majority, as my husband said, numbers wise, of the people that we're in contact with are tourists from all around the world, because we have an international base of people that come through, we've always been very active on social media and doing videos online as a way to stay in touch with people, especially over the last 10 years. but and how much more so even now. But not having the people physically there with you, it changes you. And I know that soon enough things will start to open up and get better. And we're waiting for you when it's safe and everyone feels comfortable traveling. You have an open invitation. I always say, here's the key. You can come whenever you want. And we hope to see you very soon in good health and happiness.
You know, when we arrived in Venice, we arrived like late at night. It was Thursday night. And the restaurant was like closing and we didn't eat, etc. We were coming from Rome, we didn't eat. So right away, I think Rami, I saw you and you arranged, no problem. Well, incredible. It's really, we definitely look forward. A lot of people look forward to coming back. And maybe just tell us before we open up for questions, how do people find you online? How do people find you, God willing, when it opens up for them and their friends? How do they find you? How do they what services do you offer them? Meaning, I know that even by you helped suggested hotels and other things. You really helped a tourist find their way through to be able to find a lot of what they need in Venice. And then once they get there, obviously, the ability to, I do remember that if you don't reserve early for Shabbos, you know, it fills up the restaurant, the gallery. There's always a chair for
There's always
everyone.
a chair somewhere there.
So where do they get hold of you? How do they get hold of you?
So in the chat, I wrote toward the top, I wrote our website is called Jewish Venice, like you're Jewish and you'll come to Venice or come back to Venice, jewishvenice.org. And it's a very thorough website where you can book your hotels right through the website. There's frequently asked questions. And in normal days, I field about 100 email a day. So it usually takes around 2 days to get a response. So it's definitely to everyone's benefit to just have your question answered by quickly taking a look at the website. This way you can make your plans. And so that's jewishvenice.org. Also, I put up a link to a video. It's called The Love That Saved the Day. It's an 8-minute video that you can watch at your convenience. When the rabbi asked about a special, or maybe Rabbi Sandina asked us special stories that happened, this was a significant story, a real life-changing story. And this was just one example of many that have happened. And then during this past summer, in an effort to be able to continue work, speaking to people, basically I started a blog and I'm right about the things that I usually speak about with people in person. People ask about the restaurant. So there's articles about business management. Certainly there's spirituality, health and wellness, all kinds of wonderful things. So the link is in the chat as well. It's called Rebbitzin Unplugged. And there are videos online as well.
Incredible.
The title of the 8-minute video, Albert, is called The Love That Saved the Day. I'm going to, I'll duplicate it in the chat right here. So
I'd like to, if you're good, to open up if anyone has a question. If anyone has a question, I think Raul, who studied in Venice for a year, wanted to say hi. Now that he's meeting the Shluchim in Venice, Raul.
Ciao a tutti.
Ciao.
Come stai?
Bene, grazie.
Bene. Bene, ho vissuto a Venezia 1 anno per studiare a Ca' Foscari.
Oh, wow. Devi tornare subito.
Sì, io voglio tantissimo, voglio.
When were you in Venice? Which years?
4 years ago. 4 years ago, yeah. Okay.
Anyway, we'll.
But now when he goes back, he knows the address.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been. You remember the ghetto? You saw the ghetto?
No.
No? Oh well.
No, I never did.
Okay, so you definitely reason to come back.
Yeah, I definitely, yes.
This is a picture of the ghetto itself. It's a portion of it. And here you can see our 25-foot menorah. You can see behind the menorah, you can see people standing there to give you an idea of the scope, the size of the menorah. It takes about 20 people to lift it. They lift it by hand. And it's really very, very special. You can see for the left side of, you see on the other side of the menorah, there's a red building, and then beside that there's yellow. And if you look closely at the red building, starting on the bottom floor, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories. And then the building that's the same height next to it, the yellow one, if you don't add that little triangular roof, that's actually a building that's behind it. But this red building and the yellow building beside it, that's on the edge, are actually the same height. So the first one, as I said, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 floors. And the yellow one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors only, and they're the same height. So how can it be? This is something that's representative of many of the buildings in the ghetto. The Jews were literally, at the height of the ghetto, there were 4,000 Jews crammed into this small area. And what they did was, you can see on the red building, they were at the bottom, if you count that as the first floor, the third floor on the red part of the building is a floor that they inserted, that they built in between the 2 other floors in order to add more space. Wow. So when you come to the ghetto now, you'll see it's a beautiful, happy place. But back then it was very challenging and very difficult. But one of the special things about everyone being together in that time, in that historical time, was that that's just it. Everybody was together. Everybody kept the mitzvahs together. Everyone celebrated together. And, we were talking about having faith and being strong and getting through things. I can only imagine the situation back then. But, that's just a testament to how important each and every mitzvah is, how important a sense of community and being together is. And that's why what your rabbi and Rebbitzin are doing here is just so wonderful, that even in these challenging times, bringing everyone together, reinforcing this sense of community amongst yourselves. And we are so fortunate, even though I'm pretty tech savvy, you can never take it for granted. The fact that we are across the world from each other and can be together like this is very, very special. And we are so thrilled to be able to spend this time with your community.
100%. So we have, I think, Albert Toby from Milan, actually, originally.
Hey, Albert.
Wants to say, ask something or say something. Albert.
Yes. Hi. It's very interesting. I want to ask you a question, because we go often to Abano Terme with a group of friends, and we went to Padova. How many Jews there is in Padova now?
Nowadays in Padova, there's enrolled officially in the community, there's 70, maybe 80 Jews. But Padova, as you know, has, it's a few other things going on. There's a university, there's some Israeli students in the university. Until COVID started, there was an El Al station in Venice. El Al started a direct flight to Venice about less than 10 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. And so there was a crew there, about another 4 or 5 families of Israelis living in Padova. And it's actually, it's a community. So there's maybe 100, 150 Jews in Padova nowadays, with the surroundings. A lot of people come to Abano. Well, now it's closed, but Abano, I don't know if people know it, it's a city of spa. There's a very special water there, and it cures, it helps a lot, and people come for cures and to spend time there. It's a small city, mostly of hotels with big warm swimming pools and a special mud that people get cured with. And so it's part of Padova, and Padova is very important historically. As we mentioned before, the Ramchal, the Shadal, they're from there, but even before that, very, very important rabbis like the Maram Padova and the Barbanel are buried there. There were rabbis in Venice and Padova, but so it's the community is very important. The shul has just been turned, the main shul, turned into a museum. People can visit, and the community uses the smaller part of the shul.
Wow. Yeah, and you know what's incredible is I lived in Milan for about 25 years, but
Yeah, I remember you're in Verona.
Yeah, but the Italian Jews, most of them, they assimilate. It's unbelievable.
Unfortunately, communities in Europe are assimilated, in Italy. I was saying before, even maybe more than other places. Places like France and England, maybe, but France especially had newcomers, people from the North African communities who came in and changed a little bit. In Italy, it didn't happen so much, except in Rome a little bit, and maybe Milan a little bit. Maybe you came also, your family during the wars, but the local Italian community dwindled in the years. So very true.
Yeah, we came from Lebanon originally.
Yeah, I'm saying maybe you came, in the 60s or the 50s into Milan, but yeah, the local community, the Italian community, it was small in the first place in numbers, and it's even smaller now. But there's a revival now. There is a little bit of some people making Aliyah, and again, small numbers. Italy is a small community.
But many people don't know that just like this Sfard and Ashkenaz, the original Italians had their own nusach, their own way of prayer that's not Sfard or Ashkenaz. It's there because they've been there for thousands.
Yeah. Minhag Italiani, it's very true, and it's still kept, especially in Rome and in other Italian cities like Torino. It's kept, and it's happened because of Jews being in Rome, taken by the Roman Empire still from Jerusalem, even before the destruction of them, before the exit, Jews coming out of Israel. So the first community, maybe in diaspora, was in Rome, and it stayed with the Italian Jewry. So certain cities still have the Italian customs. A lot was lost or mixed with the Sephardic custom. Like in Livorno, there's a Nusach Livorno, a custom of Livorno, which was built from an Italian and a Sephardic one. But in Rome, especially in Rome, they have their own siddur. It's different, and you could see it's antique. Certain prayers are not there, like the Chabad is not there, or other things which is customary everywhere else. It's missing because it's more ancient.
Yeah. So we have here, I think, Anat, you wanted to ask a question?
Yes, please. Yes. Since you mentioned Padova, my great-grandmother, their name is Padova.
Okay.
And we think that they used to be there, and the Inquisition brought them there, and then they moved to Russia. And from Russia, they came to Israel at the beginning of the century, or even the end of last century. But I would like to know, how can we find if the family is from there, since everybody talking because their name is Padova, that they are from there?
So most probably, actually, for sure, I would say they're definitely somewhere in the origins from Padova. The name Padova, even though other people were given the name of the families because coming of Padova, but the name Padova comes from the Maram Padova. Maram Padova was Rabbi Katzelnev Bogen, who came, his family came from Ashkenazi origins, but they moved to Padova in the 13th, 14th century. And the Maram himself, who's buried in Padova, was one of the most important rabbis in history, totally. And the most of the families that came from him with the name Padova. It was called Katzine Bogen from Padova, and his name became Maram Padova, and the family name from there. The main rabbi in England is also Katzine Bogen Padova. Nowadays, Rabbi Padova is very famous, and I think all the families come from that. There are a lot of Italian Jews were given names of cities, because when they came, they didn't have family names. They used to, especially Sephardic Jews who used to use their father's name. so they were called by the name of the city they come from. There's people like a lot of Jewish Italian families have the name of their city. So there might be other origins to that name, other branches of the family who didn't come from Padua that just kept that name, but most probably not. Most of
So
the part of AQ. Now, the information nowadays from the archives of Padua community, they're all brought to Beit HaTfutzot, to the Museum of the Diaspora in Tel Aviv. And it's very organized there. It's a Beit HaTfutzot. I mean, it's there's different locations in Israel, but it belongs to the University of Tel Aviv, and they're very organized. You can even online nowadays go and search. They have all the, any documentation that was available here was brought there because they're actually archiving it and they're organizing it the best possible. So it's a lot is available, especially about such a family. A lot of information available, even online. Definitely, if you go there, they have a computer where you can see it and make your researches. But they put a lot of things online too.
Maybe I will come one day to see it.
Absolutely come. Well, thank you.
Anat, you should definitely go check out Italy. By then you'll love it.
When the time will let us do that, we will do it.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Anat. Any other questions?
Raise your hand if you have a question. If not, we will give a chance to close. Anyone have a question? You're saying? Okay, so I think we're good.
No.
Hey, hello?
Yes, Rabbi Moshe.
Yeah.
Rabbi, I want to ask you, there was a rabbi in Milan called Rabbi Bonfil, and he went to Israel. Is he still alive?
No, Rabbi Bonfil is not alive. No. I mean, he would be over 100 now. No, but I do remember the name and the figure. I remember the person.
Yeah, he was a brilliant rabbi.
Beautiful.
Anyway.
So I think we want to take this moment, first of all, to thank so much for being with us and especially being live. Helen, you have a question? Unmute yourself.
This is for the Rebbitzin.
Sure. Hi, Helen.
Yeah. Well, the Rebbitzin in Italy. I know the Rebbitzin here, but
it was me. I was saying hi.
Okay. The question is what is your favorite recipe that is that combination of Italian and Jewish? Like, what is it? Is it a dessert? Is it a main course? Let the ladies know. What is this going on?
There's a very special cookie. It's called bise. It is absolutely delicious. I really enjoy coffee, and the shape of this cookie is like an S, so it's perfect to hold and to dip. And I actually have the recipe on Rebbitzin Unplugged. So in the chat, you'll see there, you'll see the link to the blog, and you'll find bise on there. It's very, very special. And it's one of my kids' favorite cookies. In fact, the cookie recipe has gotten a lot of attention. I was fortunate enough to do a cooking class online for the Chabad project, the International Chabad project. So the kids, they made the cookies and they sent pictures, and so rest assured, this is, I know that this one is one that anybody who likes cookies will enjoy this recipe. And one of the best things about it is that the majority, if not all, of the ingredients are things that you already likely have in the house. So it's very easy, delicious. It's a quick recipe, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot.
That's for us, Dina.
Yep, that's for us.
I remember
we're on there.
I remember when I was in Rome, in the ghetto, they had something I never saw before. They do things with artichoke. We never saw things like that before. It seems like it's something uniquely Italian or something. It was very interesting.
Yeah, the artichokes are very popular also in the ghetto of Venice. It's a very popular Jewish dish. And but it's more I don't want to say it's commercialized. They're absolutely delicious. Our carciofi fritti, it's my favorite thing on the menu. We do it in Venice a little bit different than they do it in Rome, but it's absolutely delicious. So everybody definitely order it when you come and visit. But I specifically mentioned the cookie because it's a little bit more unique. It's a really home type of feeling. Like everybody will mention to you the fried artichokes, but the bisa cookie is something distinctly special that you won't get everywhere.
Incredible. So we want to take this moment to really thank both of you so much. And we want to give a bracha that Hashem should give you strength to carry on, and God willing, soon when the doors will swing open, and you'll be able to make your magic happen with everyone who comes through there, and very soon, with Mashiach, with all the Chabad houses and all the shuls and all the Jewish communities come together, there's no question that the Venice will have a special place in Israel as well for all that you have continue to do.
Amen.
Okay, and also, as they were saying that the restaurant is closed now there, for over 13 months. So if anyone would like to help out, they're there alone. They've been taking care of all the Jews coming around for all these years. Now, if and they don't ask for anything, they don't ask for money or anything. So if anyone would like to donate to them anything now during these challenging times, it's you could get in touch with us. You could do it through us or directly to them, jewishvenice.org through them, or you can be in touch with us and we'll be able to help you get a Canadian receipt. So
it's very kind of you. Thank you so much. And everyone's blessed 1,000 times over. I'll just add, everybody loves, I hope you've also enjoyed the pictures in the background. I hope that they were clear. This is just some of my photography. Actually, I wasn't going to mention that, but on rebbitzonunplugged.com, there's a shop, and I have photography there. And there's no shipping, no waiting. You can do an instant, you get a link and you'll get an instant download that you can print it, take it to your local drugstore or wherever you can print photos. And I've had guests who have come, they've printed photos and framed them in their homes. It's pretty incredible. If anybody is a photographer in the Zoom or enjoys photos, it's pretty wonderful to know that somebody has your photographs hanging in their living room. But aside from that, one person, she printed them using like Shutterfly online. She printed them on sheets of metal. It's really incredible. So when you take a look, definitely take a look at the bisa cookie, the biscotti recipe. And then on the right, you'll see the lifestyle shop, and there's photography there as well. Wow. Makes a nice gift, and you'll have a nice memento even before you come.
Thank you, Rabbi Rami and Shachar.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Give you the strength to move on, and God willing, we should all be there with you very soon.
Amen. The one who's blessed is blessed even more.
Amen.
Or the one who gives the blessing is blessed even more.
And to everyone who joined, which I'm sure you join us in all of the beautiful evening that we had, and to hear from the Rabbi and Rebbitzin. And we thank you for coming on. Just get ready for next week. We go from Venice to Morocco. So, but Venice will stay ingrained in us. It was a great evening and morning for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best, everyone.
Thank you.
Be well.
And if I could just say really quickly, probably everyone's familiar, but on the chat, at the bottom of the chat where you type on the right side, there's 3 dots. If you click those 3 dots, you can save the chat. It says it right there, save chat. And that way you'll be able to save all the information and you'll be able to plan your trip.
You really put everything on this, so it's so easy for everyone to get it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
All the best. Be well, everyone.
All the best. Shabbat shalom to everyone.
Be well.
Shabbat shalom.
And happy Shavuos to everyone as well.
Yes.
Shavuos is coming in a few weeks. We're all going to be together to hear the reading of the Ten Commandments.
Amen.
Amen.
It was charming. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizette and Albert.
Thank you, everyone. It was really interesting.
Thank you, Valerie.
We miss you.
Thank you.
We miss you a lot.
Oh,
Bye.
bye-bye, everyone. Bye, guys.
Be well, everyone.
Bye, bye, Ramay Moshe.
Thank you. Interesting, huh?
Very interesting. She did a great presentation.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're an incredible couple.
yeah. They're having a hard time now.
Yeah.
There's nothing there, like she said, from hundreds to thousands to zero. But they're
Very-
staying here waiting to keep it, so they can, the few Jews in the community, and ready to start again when it's all, when it's all over.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Anyway.
beautiful.
Hi, Michelle.
Merci.
I hope you enjoyed it. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yes, very much. I was printing the recipes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Very nice. Good. It's nice to see you.
Thank you.
Be well. Have a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hi, B. Be well, everyone. Claudine, Shabbat Shalom. Kathy, Shabbat Shalom. Sari, Shabbat Shalom. Lillian, Shabbat Shalom.